The waters of the Gulf of Morbihan might appear calm, but these sailors who ventured out into this inland sea are taking no risks.
You're turning a little hard here.
Turn to port, bar to the left.
They're on the lookout for buoys to help them avoid rocks.
Can you see the red one there?
Wait, you can just make out the land there. Be careful.
We know pretty much where we are, except that we have to find the channel buoy. It will soon clear up. It's just a small moment of hesitation.
Finally, the mist disappears and the Brittany landscape comes into view. On the banks, one of the Gulf's historic beacons is now visible.
This is the Pink House. It's called the Pink House because of its color. It's become a key landmark in the Gulf to help sailors navigate. We're now entering the inland sea of Morbihan. Mor meaning sea and Bihan meaning little.
The Gulf of Morbihan is a bay containing a cluster of 42 islands, most of them private. On some, you can see the remains of the region's Celtic civilization, menhirs, dolmens, and 550 other prehistoric sites, which keep this rich local history alive. We now head to the Île de Niort, which in Breton means the bright island.
There are no blocks or a pontoon. You land directly on the beach in your dinghy. It's a bit tricky. It means you can come here in a canoe, a little boat, or a sailboat.
It's the only island in the Gulf which is entirely public and run by the state.
That's it, we've moored. You have to imagine that in the late 19th century there were up to 30 people living here in near total isolation. They made a living from agriculture on these 40 hectares. It's the fourth largest island of the Gulf. At that time, all the shores of the Gulf were exposed to the wind.
Uninhabited since 1960, the island is now used to help raise awareness about the environment.
Rather than stretching a cable from the mainland or running a diesel generator, we're making our own electricity using this photovoltaic plant of 70 square meters of solar panels. It's the same for water. Rather than running pipes from the mainland, we produce our own drinking water with a fresh water well.
Vincent is in charge of looking after the island. This morning, he has to mow one of its huge meadows.
I'm trying to do it in the most environmentally friendly way possible, so I'm mowing in late summer when everything has bloomed. A couple of sheep help with maintenance, so there's a bit of diversity of grass and a spot of richness in fauna and flora.
Here's the knife. Michel, shall I open you one?
Over on the Île d'Ars, we've come to sample a local culinary delight, the oyster.
When you look closely, you can see that this is the second strongest current in Europe. So that brings in food and plankton in large quantities.
The Gulf produces 10,000 tons of oysters every year. Philippe has been an oyster farmer for 35 years.
Look over here, the currents are still strong, so it's really going to go down.
He needs to be quick because time and tide wait for no man. In just a few hours, his oyster farm will be underwater.
So now we're going to turn over our oyster pots. These are cupped oysters that are 3 years old. From birth, these cages are turned so that the oysters get some light and continue to grow. If the cage isn't turned over, the oysters will just sit at the bottom and they won't grow.
Philippe produces 60 tons of oysters every year, much to the delight of the tourists who flock to the Gulf. Just a stone's throw from the Île aux Moines is Celtic, a smaller private island which has been in the same family for 7 generations. Today, these 3 hectares of rock belong to Bernard. Keeping the island in shape is a never-ending task. All year round, he fights against weeds and brambles.
We can't kill them just by pruning. You have to dig out the root one by one. It takes about an hour to clear a 5 by 1 meter square. An hour in life, it's not much. We've won. Here's another one. Clearing these spaces encourages biodiversity. If we don't keep them clear, they grow over in 2 years. In just 2 years, it will become an overgrown thicket, and in 3 years, it will be completely impenetrable.
Since 1997, this inland sea has belonged to the prestigious club of the most beautiful bays in the world. It ranks alongside Ha Long Bay in Vietnam, San Francisco Bay in the United States, and the Mont Saint-Michel in Normandy.
Sexual harassment, pay gaps, a lack of interesting female roles, and few chances for women behind the camera. The power imbalance in film is as old as the Hollywood Hills. Join us from Tinseltown as we speak to the people calling Time's Up.
Encore on France 24 and France24.com.